is the Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac SicEm365 Radio Baylor Football Tailgate Show. Brought to you by
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952. IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs. Convenient, affordable. That's Ideal. Edward Jones Investments. With agents Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, Tom Albers, and Cam Heathcott. Makes sense of investing. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Our goal is to get you back in the game. Stonewood Dental. Your comfort is our priority. Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Your friend in the car business.
Brewer looking for the equalizer. He wants it all on one play, and he's got it. Beautifully designed. Ben Sims, the tight end, into the end zone for the touchdown.
The Willis Law Firm, premier personal injury and product defect trial lawyers. Petty Clinic Low T, helping you become the high-performance man you want to be. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, metal buildings, metal roofing, steel and pipe. The Pioneer way since 1943. Baylor University, where lights shine bright. Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131, 254-598-8131. First National Bank of Central Texas. Bird Culchin Ford, your home for Texas-built Ford tough trucks. Barefoot Campus Outfitters, your home for Baylor merchandise.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go on this Saturday, and finally, Baylor has a football game again after their last game, the loss in Morgantown to West Virginia in a game that went double overtime. Today, the 110th meeting between Baylor and Texas. The Horns lead the series dominant fashion, 77-28, 4 ties. But in the last decade, the series has been 5-5, and I think it's fair and safe to say that Baylor probably feels like they gave up a couple of 3 losses in that 10-game stretch to be just 5-5 along the way. Baylor coming off again a long wait after the game, the loss to West Virginia, and then eventually a bye week, and then the Oklahoma State game postponed. Craig Smoke with me. Paul Catalina is here, but not a part of the pregame show on the air at this time. We'll hear from Dave Aranda. We'll hear from Dusty Dvorak, who's a part of that broadcast today. We'll update you on the scores. We'll also hear from Terrence Ganaway, among many others. Craig, you've been saying this. Thank goodness we're just a couple of hours away from actually seeing Baylor kick off and play football again.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to break this game down any more than it's already been broken down. I mean, it's been taken a look at from every possible angle. It's been analyzed to death, and, that's all we've been able to do. And so that's what we've done. But now here in a couple hours, we actually get to see if what the analysis said was right or if this is going to go a completely different way. If this is going to be a game where maybe Baylor's offense flourishes for all we know. I know that's not what the expectations are, but I'm just glad that we get to see, because talking's great. Talking's what pays the bills as well a lot of the time. But after a while, you just want to watch and see for yourself and not speculate or guess or assume. So I'm looking forward to being able to see those things here in a little while.
I don't know about other pregame meals that anyone else had. I'm sure they were pretty good, depending on the kickoff at 11 o'clock or 2:30 or 4:30 or 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whenever it is tonight. But Brian Etheridge, thanks, of course, to one of our great sponsors, Waco Custom Marketplace, yet again, with the incredible hospitality, with the steaks. Armstrong, you want to chime in for a second on what you have there? A nice, good-looking ribeye, it looks like.
Yeah, I believe this is a ribeye, correct? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cooked medium rare. It's incredible.
It is incredible. Craig, you've had part of your pregame meal. Brian has it. Paul's had Drake Toll, who will be a part of the postgame with J.D. Piquel. As soon as the game ends, we'll go straight into our postgame, take calls and texts, and wrap up the game between Baylor and Texas. 110th meeting. No question, any series that Texas has been a part of that was lengthy, that included the old days of the Southwest Conference, it's pretty one-sided. But in the last 10, 15 or so years, it hasn't been that way. And Baylor had to learn how to beat Texas back in the early parts of the 2000 decade, and they did. Now, Grant Taft and company had success in the famous 1974 game that allowed them to eventually win the Southwest Conference as well. Craig, one of the things about this, people may get up more because it is Texas, because of even if there's not any mystique left of the logo. But one thing we know about Baylor, they went in last year, just dominated that game. There is no fear of the burnt orange from the Baylor football program's perspective.
I mean, there shouldn't be from any football program's perspective. It's just a logo and it's a school color. And besides that, it's really nothing more, quite frankly. I think the mediocrity of UT's football program has shown that to be true over the last, decade, basically. If anybody's still scared of that logo or scared of that name, I don't know what they've been watching. And they must be scared of everything. So, no, I don't think there's any intimidation factor for Texas going into this game. I don't think these Baylor football players are intimidated by anybody that they're going to be lining up across. Are they better than them? That's what we'll find out today. But I don't think there's going to be any, intimidation factor playing into this for UT. I mean, they've got home field advantage. To what extent that even matters in today's college football, probably a little bit, but not what it would be typically under normal circumstances. So, they've got to iron some things out clearly, but I think that the message this week of not beating themselves is the one that they've got to think about the most, because I don't care what Texas does. I don't care what Sam Ehlinger does. If you are going to put yourself in second and long and third and long because of dumb penalties, if you're going to drop the football, if you're going to throw stupid picks, if you're going to
miss field goals,
if you're going to do all those things that got you beat against West Virginia, then you're going to get beat against Texas, and you're going to get beat by most teams probably not named Kansas, quite frankly. So clean up your own mistakes and then deal with what the other team's throwing at you. But if you don't clean up your own mistakes, then it's not really going to matter what Texas does.
It has been 21 days. It seems like longer than that, but that's a long time since Baylor played when they lost to West Virginia in a game that they somehow at halftime were close, and then at the end of the game had a chance, and they went into overtime and even had a chance. They had the ball to start the second overtime after the touchdown from Brewer to Sims, but then Charlie Brewer threw the pick, and West Virginia eventually scored. Last year, Baylor at home just tied up and turned Sam Ehlinger and UT's offense into a pretzel. At 24-10, the game wasn't even really that close either, as they sacked him 5 times in the win at McLean Stadium. Couple of other Big 12 scores right now currently underway. Late second quarter, less than a minute left. Oklahoma at Fort Worth against TCU 17-7, and Oklahoma has the ball inside the TCU 30. Kansas State 20. KU 7. That game also with about a minute 20 left in the second quarter. That game is in Manhattan. Later on today, 2:30 Iowa State, Oklahoma State. The Baylor-Texas game, 4:30 West Virginia and Texas Tech. So we will have the post game. Will start as soon as the game is over. Drake Toll and JD will start the post game. Armstrong Sims runs the mothership. Drake Toll is here as well. Paul Catalina, Brian Etheridge are also here as we come to you live from our studio 101 Elm Street on the corner of MLK and Elm Avenue, actually, I believe it is, here in Waco, Texas on SicEm365 Radio. Now, Craig, as far as special teams, I think you can clean that up. I think that was just one of those days you miss a kick early. Obviously, that was one of the strengths of this team last year. The defense sets you up, gave you short fields. The offense at times could be explosive. But the special teams, to me, on the road especially, you can't afford anything that gives the other team already at home, even if the crowd's only going to be at 20, 25%, block kicks, block field goals. Texas themselves have had problems with that. They had a block punt in their loss to TCU just a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I mean, they called out their special teams coach, or Tom Herman did, after the Oklahoma game. I mean, directly called him out, and I believe that's a former OU assistant. It was also the guy, Jay Boulware. So, yeah, they've had their own issues, but again, I'm not too worried about what Texas does or doesn't do. I mean, if you put Michael Dicker up there to line up a kick a field goal, odds are that he's probably going to make that field goal despite him missing a crucial one a couple weeks ago against Oklahoma. So I go into it and I just assume that they're going to make their field goals and they're going to convert when they have chances, and we have to do that as well. And you just got to hope that, you make those field goals today, because you really can't afford to have what happened against West Virginia. I mean, you just can't. There's not a lot of room for error. When you're on the road, you're the underdog by a couple of touchdowns. And you just on paper are playing what looks like a better team. On paper, looks like a better team. And on, the eye test, they look like a better team as well because of what little we've seen of Baylor and because of what we saw the last time out. So even though Texas is also coming in here with a loss and 2 straight, actually, you see where they can score some points. Now, I like what Baylor can do defensively, but we've not seen anything offensively to really give us too much cause for optimism. And then special teams has been kind of 50-50. So everybody, all phases, you hear it all the time. It's cliche, all 3 phases. But, truly, all 3 phases are going to have to win this game. Defense, I think people feel good about. But, special teams and offense are going to have to hold up their end because if either one of those had held up their end in Morgantown, then Baylor's 2-0 right now.
Yeah, they're 2-0 right now, and it's much different. You have a chance to also, if you win, if you do, put a nail in UT's coffin with the 2 conference losses back-to-back, and they have a chance to put a nail in Baylor's if, in fact, they win the game today. I
mean, I think Baylor's situation is a bit different, obviously. Their coach is not on a hot seat, and they've had such a weird start to the season. So, I mean, they've kind of been dealt 2 different hands. Dave Aranda could lose today in theory and be okay as long as, it's not embarrassing. I don't expect embarrassing, nor should people, expect to see embarrassing. But for Texas, I'll tell you, when I was on the radio in Austin yesterday and I was running down the reasons why I was not, going with a Baylor win or whatever, I was saying everything that we're saying right here, everything we've been saying for 2 weeks now, 3 weeks now, because that's all we've had to go off of. And by the end of the conversation, both those guys, Aaron Hogan and Bucky Godbolt, are like, why should Texas not win this game? Texas has no business losing this game. And I basically told them, yeah, they should be expected to win this game given all of the considerations. But does it mean that they will? Obviously not. That's why they're lining up here in a couple hours.
All right, so Baylor and Texas. Baylor and Texas down at DK Royal Memorial Stadium at Earl Campbell Ricky Williams Field. That comes up at 2:30, the kick. And we'll be all the way up until 2 o'clock with the pregame, postgame soon after that. When we come back, Dusty Dvorak played at Oklahoma. He'll be a part of that broadcast today from ESPN. He joined us yesterday on SicEm365 Radio. We'll hear from him. Former Baylor running back Terrence Ganaway, a part of those teams in 2010 and 11 that turned the tide in the series against Texas to start that decade when Baylor in the last 10 meetings has been 5-5 and probably pretty sure could be at least 7-3, if not 8-2. Also today, we'll hear from Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach, some from Tom Herman on his former college roommate and teammate in Dave Aranda. This is SicEm365 Radio. Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
What season is it? It's truck season at Allen Samuels. Ram trucks are raring to go, ready to work and play, and all feature the best deals of the year during Ram Power Days. Come get your brand new Ram Lone Star at Allen Samuels with 0% for 72 and no payments for 90 days. Or choose up to $9,250 in bonus cash and incentives. Ram, the highest pickup owner loyalty in America. Shop, apply, buy online. We deliver. Ram Power Days at Allen Samuels.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
And Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
This is the Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac SicEm365 Radio Baylor Football Tailgate Show.
Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Welcome back at our studios, the beautiful brand new studios at 101 Elm Avenue on the corner of MLK, right across from the Brazos River, the suspension bridge, of course, as well, the MLK Plaza, Doris Miller Memorial. Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina has joined us. David Smoke, SicEm365 Radio. Now, the games in the Big 12, I mentioned where they were. K-State just added 14 points at the end to lead at halftime over Kansas, 34-7. Oklahoma is up 10 with 2 seconds to go in the half, and TCU's at the Oklahoma 37-yard line, so maybe they're about to either kick a field goal or attempt a field goal or maybe throw one deep into the end zone. We'll get to top 10 scores momentarily, but K-State rolling. Oklahoma, TCU, we knew would be a tough, grinded-out game, and maybe that's what we'll have today in Austin as well. So when Baylor turned the tide, when you have a series that is led by 49 more wins from Texas because of their history and tradition, although lately, the last decade, not so much. 77 wins. Baylor's won 28 times. They've only won 10 times in Austin. But it all started when they did win a game in Austin. Paul, back in 2010, they went down there, and I think it might have been like 30-22, whatever the score might have been. I believe Texas may have muffed a punt at one point, but they came back in that game to win it, and that kind of kick-started a little bit. They were pretty good. That's the year they finally got a bowl game after a decade and a half drought. But that kind of was a message that they're starting to turn the key a little bit. And that was also the year after Colt McCoy left, and Texas with Garrett Gilbert was kind of a mess.
Yeah, that was maybe a kind of a flip of the switch in the Big 12, especially for Baylor, and what happened with that game and kind of kicking off like, oh man, Art Briles is for real.
So here's Terrence Ganaway. He played in that game. He didn't have a big role. Jay Finley had a bigger role. But Terrence Ganaway, the next year, had over 150 yards. He went to DeKalb High School, was recruited a little bit by some of the Power 5 teams in A&M, not Texas. And we asked Terrence yesterday, he was a part of SicEm365 Radio, about the series back a decade ago and also playing against UT. Back in the early part of the decade of 2010 to 2019, the first couple of years of that decade, Texas and Baylor, this is when Baylor started to make that turn under Art Briles. In 2010, they went down to Austin, won a game 30-22, and the next year, they hammered Texas 48-24. Terrence Ganaway ran for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. and Baylor dominated that game to win, doubled them up 48-24. Terrence Ganaway joins us on SicEm365 Radio, and yes, he had many other highlights, as you heard, entering this particular segment with us. Terrence, thanks for being a part of the show. How much did those wins against Texas help turn the tide for Baylor's football program back in that decade?
I mean, a ton. First of all, thanks, Craig. Thanks, David and Paul, for having me. But a ton. You think about, ability to be able to recruit against Texas and Oklahoma, even in Texas A&M, even though they're not in our conference. Be able to go down to Austin and beat them in their own backyard, become bowl eligible, and have a lot of things happen right in 2010, and then to follow it up with the Heisman season, and we just trumped them senior night, my last game at Floyd Casey. They're just got bounced off the field, really. And you look at when we won our first Big 12 title, and we played Texas at home. It just you think about some of those games and those moments, and that's when we really started, promoting that the Big 12 run through 35, but ultimately it ran through Baylor. And, man, it was just a special time. And we were able to get a lot of talented guys to come to our program because of that. And, our Browse was a visionary, and Matt Rule took over after that and continued to lead the charge going up against Texas. And we smacked them last year. We should have beat them 2 years ago if it wasn't for some questionable calls. But man, we look forward to a great opportunity to get after them again tomorrow.
I know when you ask players who are on a current team that does this mean anything more because it's the University of, and yada yada yada, they'll give the standard answer of no, I mean there's all the same, but Terrence, they're not the same. Was this one for you guys one that was definitely not the same?
100%. I mean, you think Texas looked at us like we didn't deserve to be in the Big 12, that we were the scum of the Big 12, and the laughingstock of the Big 12. So a lot of it is we just got tired of getting, spit on and kicked at all the time. So, we got together and we said, this is how we want to run a program. This is how we want to build a program. And we need to go to Austin. We need to take care of those guys that sit on their high horse. And the only way that you can, beat a guide, if you will, in Texas is to show that they can bleed. And they've been bleeding since 2009, really. And their program is in a world of hurt. And I think Baylor is on the rise again. And I think Dave Aranda is the perfect guy to do it. Yes, a lot of these players in that locker room today are fired up to go play tomorrow. And they will make plays that are out of body because they're so in tune with what that moment means and what that game brings to them.
That's Terrence Ganaway, former Baylor running back. Of course, he ended his career with that explosive bowl game win against Washington the year that RG3 won the Heisman Trophy. But Terrence Ganaway in that game went off, had a record-breaking day, and we appreciate his time. The entire podcast, along with all the other guests we have, SicEm365.com. Go to the premium section, and there are various links that Colt set up. We put up the various podcasts. Yesterday, we had Grayson Grundhafer, Terrence Ganaway, Dusty Dvorak, and I can't remember. There was another interview. Of course, the Dave Aranda interview from the one-on-one. We'll have that a little bit later on today. It's 12:53. K-State again, halftime 34-7. Oklahoma now and TCU halftime as well. That game 17-7. Oklahoma trying to bounce back with their second consecutive win in conference play. In the top 25 today, we'll dig around a little bit. Clemson is late second quarter up 24-7 over Syracuse. Ohio State was kind of just, hanging around. Nebraska was, but Ohio State turned on the Jets. They lead by 10. At halftime, North Carolina trying to bounce back from the loss to Florida State, up 7 late in the half at North Carolina State. Coastal Carolina now ranked. Georgia Southern, 14 apiece. Those are the early games in the top 25 last night. Wisconsin opened up the Big Ten, 45-7 over Lovie Smith and Illinois as well.
Did I just see that FSU score right, Paul, unfortunately?
Yes. The FSU is also bouncing back to what they were before that game.
Was this 28-14?
It was 31.
Yeah.
31-14.
Well, okay. Well, Nebraska teased me a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm not stupid. I know that wasn't going to end that way, or even continue that way, but they did they made me watch a little longer than I thought. and now that might end up 45-17 before it's all said and done. By the way, again, I know we are saying this a lot, but Brian Etheridge came all the way in from Dallas and cooked us our pregame meal. I mean, absolutely, and our Waco Custom Marketplace and our great sponsor as well. And then I brought some of those chili. I brought Eric Horton's chili that has all sorts of secret ingredients that we'd have to kill you if we gave it to you. Armstrong, you didn't go back for a second bowl, so it must not have been good. I guess
it was good. It was really good. I
did not see you go back for a second bowl.
I didn't have time.
Armstrong. Drake hasn't had it. Brian's not going to go near it. Craig's had it all his life. He's tired of it.
I'm taking some home with me.
Well, I brought a bunch of containers, by the way, for you guys to take back.
I like that you are now calling it Eric Horton's chili.
Yeah,
like he's got an official sponsorship.
He had a copyright infringement. On we used to call them the Bama beans. It's because it has a secret ingredient from Alabama. That's what it is. All right, when we come back, I thought Dusty Dvorak yesterday on our show was fantastic. Craig, didn't you? His energy, former Oklahoma player, and like he said, we will ask and we'll have him just a second to start the 1 o'clock hour. He doesn't know what to expect today either.
I mean, who does? Who does? Who's out there right now saying, like, I know exactly how this game's going to go? I mean, first of all, we can't do that with any game pretty much, period, unless it's like Ohio State Rutgers and you can say, well, Ohio State's going to beat the mess out of them. Okay, simple enough. But this game right here, I mean, do you know Charlie Brewer's going to play well or not?
Nope.
Do you know that the UT offense is going to play really well or not? We don't know anything. So this is two teams who haven't played in a combined 5 weeks, if you think about it that way. Baylor hadn't played in nearly a month, and they're on the road. And, even though they have more guys available now, like how many of those guys have even played through the first 2 games? How much have they played through the first 2 games? Baylor is still figuring out their offensive line rotation, the last time we saw them. They're still figuring out what to do exactly with Jake Burton. You know what I mean? So I have no idea what to expect because the way practices are set up as well now, we don't have like the ability to be over there at the indoor for 5 minutes and see like, oh, well, that guy's got a knee brace on or that guy's on the starting O-line. Like we don't get that as much anymore. So it's anyone's best guess as to, what everything looks like because it's all behind closed doors. So I think that if you say Texas wins big this game, then you may very well be right. But I think if you say, hey, Baylor wins on a last-second field goal, you could be just as right for all we know. So I'm excited to just see it, like I said. And, yeah, Dvorak had a lot of energy, and I'm sure he's looking forward to calling this game because I know that they had a little bit of a break as well.
Yeah, he was. In fact, Paul asked him about the differences in getting prep for games now with COVID, and he had to be sat down. He was sat down, quarantined because of it for a couple of weeks, not because he had it, but because of contact tracing. When we come back, we'll also have a little bit of a sliver of a segment about high school football as week number 9 ended. Week 9 ended, and we'll look back at maybe a handful of games, the best wins last night, and also the ones who might have themselves in trouble. I will say this, speaking of COVID, Troy beat Caldwell 21-6 without Zach Robotchik because they got hit with it this week. It may have been one of Ronnie Porter's best coaching jobs ever, and I asked him if it was, and he said, let me just tell you this, it was a long, long week. A long, long week as they beat Caldwell 21-6. When we come back, Dusty Dvorak. This is SicEm365 Radio, also the television's video stream as well. Man, I can't tell you how much fun we have in this building every single day on the corner of Elm Avenue and Martin Luther King. This is SicEm365 Radio. Dusty Dvorak is next.
Car has the trucks, man, they have the one for you. Crew cab, short or long bed, silver, black or blue. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, he has the truck for you. Carr has the trucks, man, he has the truck you need. If you want the best truck, you want a GMC. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, specializing in diagnosis and treatment of any and all sport-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service to Central Texas. They tackle all surgical and non-surgical problems that arise from an active lifestyle. Trust the doctors that Baylor trusts, and when injuries sideline you, don't wait for Monday. Join us at 8:30 on Saturday mornings for a post-game injury evaluation clinic. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. We get you back in the game.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Texas Board Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
This is the Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac SicEm365 Radio Baylor Football Tailgate Show.
Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Baylor and Texas kick off at 2:30. Baylor 1-1, Texas 2-2. Texas has lost at home to TCU, and then in the game against Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago, they've had a couple of weeks to stew. Baylor's had 3. 21 days since they played, and they have a chance now to get back in action. I mentioned this yesterday, and throughout the week, there was around 1,000 tests for COVID during the week. Multiple sports, multiple athletes, but yes, football. Also staff, over 1,000. It was like just under 1,000 on Thursday. And so then because of what you test on Friday, and I got the thumbs up that everything was clean yesterday, over 1,000 tests, not a single positive. Now, again, what got Baylor in trouble was a false negative. You hear about false positives, that's Nick Saban and the Learjet. But so that's good news. Now, does that mean that they're full throttle? No. Does that mean that they're in great shape, conditioning or whatever? That's also something that they had to deal with that most likely is something I think we won't know until perhaps late in the first half if they get into a game where they're on the field too much as far as their defense.
Yeah. This to me basically comes down to, I mean, who's better coming off the time away? You know what I mean? Because the odds are that either Texas is coming in 2 weeks, they've got a head coach who's on the hot seat, they've got this internal strife over the school song. Now, I know that they've said this week, like, all of that's calmed down and this is the tightest they've ever been or whatever. Basically, the words of a coach who's on his last legs, quite frankly, are a lot of the quotes you're hearing from Herman nowadays. But to ensure that, Baylor's got to be that next team to step up and beat them and disappoint that fan base. But, how does Baylor look after 3 weeks off? And with a lot of guys missing practice during that 3 weeks. And how does Texas look 2 weeks removed from that devastating loss to Oklahoma? So there's going to be a lot of emotions, I think, in play. Just both teams are probably going to be excited to be back out there. But, who can handle that? And then, yes, also there's the attrition aspect of this as well. I mean, I think you can say pretty confidently Texas is going to be in good shape heading in. We've heard nothing about COVID or problems with them. But for Baylor, I mean, my gosh, there's guys who have hardly played and then guys who still haven't played in 3 weeks. So this is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, and none of us know what it feels like. Each individual player who had COVID is going to come back differently from it, I'm sure, at least a little bit. None of us can tell. None of us, I think Drake had it. Can I say that, Drake? I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Too late now.
Too late. Too late now. But yeah, I mean, none of us, none of the three of us have had it. And none of the three of us would have to go and play in a football game 2 weeks afterwards, if we did. So there's no way for us to quantify here to our listeners and our viewers of how you're going to play when you come back. What's your strength level like? If you've, we're out for 2 weeks because you're sick and then you have 4 practices and a couple of lifts and runs in there. I mean, you're not going to be back to what you were when the season started. So you're going to be down just a little bit. So how does that affect Baylor? How do they come back from that? How do you guard against that? Who has to step up? Is somebody there that's in completely good shape, ready to go? Are you ready to go and step in for someone? A lot more questions than we have answers, and 2:30 can't get here quick enough.
No, I can't. You no matter the result.
Just 2:30 p.m., I'm so happy to see you.
No matter the result, just so we'll have at least more evidence one way or the other. Perhaps it validates what we saw 2-3 weeks ago, or perhaps it's like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe there's something that is a spark. Even if you win the game, or if you win the game, of course, no matter what, if you lose the game but you play well, that you can build off that, but you don't want to have more moral victories. So Dusty Dvorak's a part of the broadcast team for ESPN. 2:30 The Kick. He joined us, the former Oklahoma defensive lineman, Chicago Bears defensive lineman, joined us on SicEm365 Radio to discuss the game today in Austin. With what Baylor's dealt with, coming off a loss, and they've been kind of in a neutral, or Texas with all what's going on in Austin, coming off the loss with Oklahoma and before that TCU. Who needs the win most?
Oh, man, what a great question. Thanks for having me today. I mean, I would say that Texas needs to win most. I mean, a 3-game losing streak in conference play, 2 of those coming at home, you would feel like it's somewhat catastrophic for the expectations that were placed on the Texas football program. I think when you look at Baylor, with the new regime coming in, everything they lost, especially defensively from a season ago, and then all the disruptions that they've had to deal with. I think everybody kind of understands and recognizes that, it wouldn't be surprising if they weren't able to get this victory. Whereas with Texas, it already feels, I'm in Austin right now, and it already feels as if the sky is falling. A loss to Baylor tomorrow, I can't imagine what it's going to be like around here. So, I mean, obviously both these teams would like to get a win, but I think that Texas, a team with more pressure and really, really needs to find a way to get this victory. Man, it's going to be tough sledding around here, around the 40 acres and all.
Charlie Brewer at Baylor. West Virginia was ugly. The offensive line was a mess. Penalties, lots of negative plays. The Still brothers embarrassed them in a lot of ways for the second consecutive year. They're going to have to get off to a nicer start. Brewer's made that comment. Others have made that comment. What do you see right now from him? And they moved Burton to right tackle, Bettier back to guard. They have Newman. They've had a little bit of reps, but not a lot of practice time. Your thoughts about, can they handle that, get that fixed in the matter of what they've had to deal with?
They have to, man. That's been the thing as you watch them, as you guys know, completely different offensive line from game 1 to game 2. And neither unit really has had any cohesiveness, and they struggled. So, look, don't let the rushing yards fool you. Texas got some big physical dudes, and Joseph Ossai is a legit player up front. So this offensive line is going to be challenged from the onset. And, not knowing exactly what's going on with the COVID, who's going to be in, who's going to be out, you kind of just wonder, is that a group that maybe had gotten hit? Does that change any of the rotation? So that'll be first and foremost what I'm paying attention to. But they do have to get off to a better start. Now, look, Charlie was banged up against Kansas, and so he wasn't all the way healthy against West Virginia. I thought that showed. I think they need to continue to find ways to get Treston Edna the football. To me, I like when they motion him out. They go empty and they put him as a wide receiver. if teams are going to play man on Tristan Ebner, I think that's going to be a mismatch if you get him on a linebacker. So I think you continue to formulate ways to get him the football. And, kind of like I'm talking about Texas running the football and right with the offensive line, you got to run the football if you're Baylor. 0.8 yards per carry. I know sacks were involved in there, but and I got a lot of respect for the Stills brothers, but that's ridiculous. They've got to find a way to establish the run, and I think that's going to help Charlie out a bunch. Look, I think R.J. Sneed stepped up and played well. Another thing that surprised me, I thought Tyquan Thornton would have more productivity than he's had so far at this point in the season. He was virtually not on the field against Kansas. They located him, almost forced him the ball at times against West Virginia. But as I went back and watched last year, I thought that he was going to have a chance to be one of the more explosive playmakers in the Big 12 this year. We haven't seen that yet. If they can establish that run, force Texas to kind of load up, I think that there'll be some opportunities down the field for Tyquan Thornton and a healthy Charlie Brewer. That, as we all know, he's going to be playing this game with a massive chip on his shoulder, given being back home close to where he grew up and played high school football.
Is part of Tyquan Thornton's absence just kind of a function of the Bears finding themselves on offense, which, through 2 games, we haven't really gotten to see much of the full boat of what Larry Fedora wants to do?
Yeah, there's no rhythm to the offense right now. Receivers aren't getting a lot of separation. And, I look forward to talking to Coach Fedora. We talked to the Baylor staff and players later on this evening at about 5:30 because that's been surprising to me. They just look really out of sync, out of rhythm. Quarterback, wide receivers not quite on the same page yet. And the lack of separation, I think, is pretty glaring when you really pop the tape in and watch it. So it's a great question, and I'll be intrigued to see what Larry Fedora, what he seems to think the real issue for this offense, primarily, these wide receivers and quarterbacks unable to get on the same page early on the season.
I know you'll have the chance to visit with Coach Aranda a little bit later on. His personality and what they've dealt with, obvious a first-year coach, no spring drills. He's not the only one that's had to deal with this. Then the delays, the football-related activities suspended, and then on top of that, he took over a defense that lost 9 starters, although Terrell Bernard is fantastic at linebacker. Your thoughts? It seemed like he might have been the perfect personality. Rule would have had a team that would have been loaded even if he had stayed, but he's gone. Do you feel like Aranda, we do, that Aranda might be just the perfect personality to handle what they're dealing with right now?
Cool, calm, collected, seemingly even keel, and he always has the right thing to say, doesn't he? I do think he's a perfect guy for this transition from the Matt Rule era leaving for him to coming in. And based off everything that I can find, he's embraced a lot of the quality things that Matt Rule instilled, the toughness, the hard work, the single digits, clearly something that Dave Aranda isn't going to distance himself. He embraced that, and good on him. I mean, obviously, not opportune. First year, not just a first-year head coach at Baylor, first-year head coach ever. Mm-hmm. And for him to step in this spot and bring in new coordinators, for the most part, an entirely new staff, a difficult situation. But I do think just giving his demeanor, giving his ability to kind of roll with the punches, I do think he is best served for this football team right now. And I just want to touch real quick. I love what this defense has done. I thought coming into the year, just talking Big 12, I thought that this defense would take a huge step back. 9 starters leave, a couple of guys go to the NFL, and they were fantastic. Again, it's only Kansas and West Virginia. We'll get a much better sense of who this Baylor defense is. But Terrell Bernard, he's been fantastic. And what about Jalen Petrie? I mean, him coming off the edge in some of their blitz schemes when they use him in that star position, I think he's been absolutely incredible. And everybody just plays with great effort. They've been tackling well. I've been blown away given the turnover we see on the defensive side with what Coach Roberts, Coach Aranda have been able to step in and steal, and the way these guys are going out on the field and really playing at a high level. It's been fun to watch, and I can't wait to see exactly what that looks like against Sam Ehlinger and that Texas offense tomorrow.
Do you see, because of all the ups and downs of Oklahoma's early losses, Texas about to be possibly on a 3-game losing streak, Baylor unknown, do you see, is it Oklahoma State, Iowa State who play tomorrow? Or are those the ones that have kind of jumped out, or is it still too early to really know?
I mean, I think that you have to give those teams credit for being undefeated at this point. I think especially Iowa State, given the teams that they've been able to beat here early on this season. I mean, to beat Oklahoma and to have wins over them in TCU, I think that's extremely impressive. We still don't know a lot about Oklahoma State. I will tell you, they were my preseason pick to win the Big 12 this year, because I thought that defense would be really good. But I also thought Spencer Sanders would make strides in the right direction. We've seen him win series this year. So I think that makes for an extremely compelling matchup in Stillwater tomorrow with two good defenses, two good rushing attacks, and really it'll be the first time we've seen Spencer Sanders throughout the duration of a game so far this season. So I do think that you have to look at those two teams as we sit here today, but it's way too close to call it, man. Oklahoma's still in this. Clearly Baylor's still in this. Texas is still in this. Well, Kansas State, we haven't even mentioned. They're still undefeated in Big 12 play with wins over TCU, win over Oklahoma so far. So, you know, the one problem with them, Skylar Thompson going down, I don't know with Will Howard exactly what the ceiling on that football program is. But to me, outside of Kansas, sorry for any Jayhawks fans out there, I feel like, 1 through 9, this is as close as the Big 12 has been in a long, long time. And I think for the most part, if you don't bring your A game, anybody can beat anybody. So it's way too close to call, who the actual, no doubt about it, favorite to win the Big 12 championship is right now. I look at 4, maybe 5 teams who I could paint a scenario and paint a path to get to Arlington and compete for a Big 12 title.
That's Dusty Dvorak, played at Oklahoma and then played with the Chicago Bears, broadcast today, 2:30 Baylor and also Texas. And we'll take you up until 2 o'clock with this pregame show. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, David Smoke, Brian Etheridge here. Drake Toll here, and, of course, Armstrong Sims. And J.D. comes in a little bit later on with the postgame with Drake. Paul, you going to be here for the postgame too?
Probably not today. I need a little personal time. I had a weird morning.
Yeah, you did. We're glad you're here. We're just glad you're here.
Too.
Kansas State has already scored again on Kansas, 41-7, as they are routing the Jayhawks. When we come back, we'll update the top 25, and we'll also hear from Tom Herman on Dave Aranda, and then from Dave Aranda. SicEm365 Radio pregame brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. This is SicEm365 Radio.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Bird Culchin Ford has been in Waco since 1936. Ford, the #1 selling truck in Texas, 43 years running. And Bird Culchin Ford proudly supports high school football in Central Texas. And no better way to tailgate with a Ford than from Bird Culchin Ford, our sponsor of the Ford Tough Player of the Week. Locally owned dealership, online at bkford.com at 1701 West Loop 340 in Waco. The annual tent sale's going on right now.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is the Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac SicEm365 Radio Baylor Football Tailgate Show. Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
We're here in studio. Paul Catalina in a very... He's wearing A&M maroon today. You guys notice that?
This was as close to Florida State Garnet as I could get, so no. I just grabbed a shirt when I left.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, they're not playing A&M, so that's okay.
That is good. You're exactly right. And by the way, we'll update the top 25 in a moment. But Tom Herman and Dave Aranda, you know what you'll hear during the broadcast today. How many times will you hear Sam Ehlinger wanted to be a Texas quarterback when he was 3 years old, and there's video? How many times will you hear Charlie Brewer was not recruited by Texas where his father played and his grandfather played? It's like they can't change that narrative, but I'm going to throw it out there, and I'll turn down the sound probably. But that will happen. But you'll also hear, and it's something that when Dave Aranda was hired, is he was a college roommate with Tom Herman, who's a slight little bit older, when he visited Cal Lutheran, which is where the Cowboys used to train in Thousand Oaks, California. And he was asked, Tom Herman, we'll have Dave Aranda one-on-one here in about maybe the next segment. Tom Herman asked about, is it a little bit interesting that you're coaching against a guy that became a very good friend of yours in college and even now?
The information I've heard is, Dave is not heavily involved in the day-to-day, game planning on both sides of the ball. As you guys well know, Larry Fedora is their offensive coordinator, and Larry was here with us and with me for a year and was awesome. Provided a ton of value to our program. But the way I understand it, and I think Dave's doing it the right way, especially as a first-year head coach, there's going to be 1,001 things that are going to pull you away from the X's and O's. And so I know that he's got a ton of faith in Coach Roberts on defense. Coach Roberts was a mentor of his growing up in the profession, and he's got a ton of faith in Larry, which any head coach should and would. Larry's that good of a football coach. So I don't have a whole lot of tendencies on Dave, except I know at 5:30 in the morning to not call him because he's probably getting his yoga session in at from about 5:30 to 6. But other than that, we haven't talked a whole lot of football per se in the last few years. It's been a lot of strategy, a lot of leadership, a lot of team building. Dave's leaned. I don't want to say lean. Dave's called at times with questions that having done this for now 6-7 years, and Dave being in his first year. But in my opinion, he's doing a great job. I couldn't imagine being a first-year head coach having to go through a year like this, although with 7 new assistants and installing new schemes in all 3 phases, sometimes I do feel like a new head coach. But, he's doing a good job of trusting his coordinators and leading his team from what I understand.
That's Tom Herman, Texas head coach, and boy, he needs a win. Dave Aranda just needs to see a football game, as his players do as well, and Baylor fans as well. Tom Herman, we knew about this story, but you weren't real thrilled that they're.
No, I like Dave Aranda a lot, and it bothers me that they're friends because I don't like Tom Herman. I guess I don't know Tom Herman. I just know that he's. Every time I've come across him, like when we're at Big 12 Media Days or any kind of press conference, he tries to bully people, and I don't like that. I don't like that after the Texas OU game and Little Jordan Humphrey had a good game, and somebody asked him, Little Jordan Humphrey had a good game, and then he spent 4 minutes describing the difference between Little and Lil just to belittle that reporter. It's just not, it's all things, it's all unnecessary.
You can tell a lot about people the way they handle success. And I think when you've seen Tom Herman have a little bit of success, that ego comes out and that arrogance comes out. And then when, that success isn't there, he's a pouty-faced little child, nearly crying in press conferences. So
Remember the game at Oklahoma State?
There's been a few examples of him actually being on the verge of tears or shedding a tear after a loss or whatever. So, I mean, I don't really have anything personal against the guy per se, but I don't like that arrogance. I don't like that how when he came in, it was all of a sudden like, oh, the world's over now. UT, get ready, everybody. Hope you had your fun the last few years.
Chosen one.
Hope you got your licks in and all of that. And, well, everybody's still getting their licks in. And I think Herman probably deep down is just is a good dude. I think he's a little weird because he is very intelligent, but he doesn't know how to handle winning very well. And so I'm glad to see him not winning that much.
Yeah, the sideline at the end of the game against Missouri with Drew Lock with the helmet or the what do you call the
whatever that little motion that Drew Lock.
That's something a head coach should never do.
Tom Herman also knows Dave Aranda enough to have some memories. Dave Aranda's memory of Tom Herman was when he said he was involved in everything on campus, and one time he was actually the PA guy for volleyball, whatever it is, was standing on top of a table dancing. Dave Aranda, more low-key, but here's Tom Herman on Baylor's head coach Dave Aranda from when they were at Cal Lutheran.
I don't think it's that rare. David Beatty was in this league. David Beatty is a close friend of mine that will be till the day one of us passes from this earth, and I consider Dave the same. I think it's really cool that 20% of the head coaches in the Big 12 are Cal Lu graduates. But my favorite memory of Dave, there wasn't a whole lot. If you guys remember the whole story, Dave got hurt early in his career and had to hang his cleats up. His shoulders kept popping out, and there wasn't a whole lot back then in the late 90s, mid 90s that could be done about it. So Dave very quickly transitioned into being a student coach, and I think all of us as players at the time knew that this guy was destined for greatness. But I do remember when Dave was still a player for the few weeks that he went through training camp, just watching film of some inside drill and just watching how hard he would hit our fullback or how hard he would hit a guard coming downhill. He was, I know his build now because he I don't know what he does. He gets up at like 2:45 in the morning and goes for a 4-mile run and then 3-mile bike ride and then does yoga and all that stuff. So he's very conscious. I don't know all of that to be fact. I'm kind of ribbing him here, but I'm sure he'll appreciate it. He may not look it right now, but man, could that guy hit? And that's the one thing I'll always remember about him as a player was the violence in which he played and the collisions that he delivered on ball carriers, blockers, you name it.
I look forward to asking Dave Aranda about what he was as a player when he was healthy enough to continue to practice and play, perhaps on Monday with an opportunity to sit down and visit with him again. When we come back, we're going to hear from Baylor head coach Dave Aranda. Also, the phone line's open for you, your thoughts and predictions on Baylor, Texas, your predictions and why. 254-339-1122. Also on the text line, 254-339-1122. That's next on SicEm365 Radio.
Car has the trucks, man. They have the one for you. Crew cab, short or long bed, silver, black or blue. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, he has the truck for you. Carr has the trucks, man. He has the truck you need. If you want the best truck, you want a GMC. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Baylor University, students can shine in their own way. Or should we say their own ways? Because there's no limit to the ways Baylor students make the world a brighter place. Whether they're leading a student organization or following a higher calling, getting advice from faculty, or taking part in world-class
world-class research, pursuing their dreams, or working toward their dream job, students find their place to shine at Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
This is the Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac SicEm365 Radio Baylor Football Tailgate Show.
Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Trey Morris, who has been watching the pregame show and also is somebody that's very heavily involved nationally in marketing for many, many different businesses. Listening to Tom Herman on SicEm365 Radio, even when he's trying to be nice, he is still just...
Yeah, it's just kind of his vibe.
Okay.
I mean, just how it is.
Trey, thank you very much. Now, Craig, you want to update the top 25? You have that ready? And we'll get to that. Ohio State's rolling. Clemson was, playing well enough that after the 70 points against Georgia Tech as well with what they were doing. The update, I'll give you the 2 Big 12 teams.
Here.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, do you want to do Big 12 first?
Yeah, I'll do that one. Kansas State 48-7, mid-third quarter over KU. Oklahoma now 20, TCU 7. And there's 5 minutes left in the third quarter in Fort Worth.
Yeah, apparently Lincoln Riley's called some interesting plays today. Sooners fans getting frustrated, it looks like, because they have had opportunities, I guess, to maybe blow this game open a little bit more and just basically the comment I keep seeing is Spencer Rattler's being asked to play like Jalen Hurts, and he's not Jalen Hurts. No. So I'll have to watch some of that later on. But right now you got number 1 Clemson. They lead Syracuse, who's 1-4 on the year, 27-21 with 5:54 left to go in the third. Nebraska down 38-17 to number 5 Ohio State with less than a minute to play in the third quarter. Also, number 14 North Carolina 24. NC State, who's the number 23 team in the country, 7. So Tar Heels in control there. You mentioned KSU up big over Kansas, and that's all that's going on as far as the top 25. Although last night, Wisconsin beat up on Illinois as the Big Ten got back to action, 45-7. And Graham Mertz, the young quarterback for the Badgers, had quite the showing. Ended up with 5 touchdowns, 1 incompletion. He was 20-21 for 248 yards and 5 touchdowns. And at one point, I think he was like 17 of 17 or something crazy like that. So what a debut what a showing for him. I think debut as well. And, that's where we stand right now in the top 25.
All right, if you want to jump on, thank you, Craig, 254-339-1122. If you want to jump on right now is the time. We'll hear from Dave Aranda, my conversation with him from much earlier in the week on the week, the coming back and playing Texas and much more. In fact, here we go.
All right, Gunny, thanks for your call. You're on SicEm365 Radio. Oh, no, we dropped him. It dropped.
Just kidding, Gunny. Just kidding.
Here he comes back. Here he comes back.
Gunny, quick draw, Gunny. Gunny, thanks for your call on SicEm365 Radio.
Let me see if it. Hold on, it's screening. Hold on. Okay, Gunny, are you there?
Yes.
There
yes.
we go.
How are we doing, gentlemen?
We're doing well. Thank you, Gunny. Go ahead.
So, in watching how things are going down there in Austin, it looks like this football thing isn't working out real well for Tom Herman. So I was wondering if y'all had any ideas about what his next career move might be.
Well,
being a helpful type, I had a few suggestions.
Oh, Lord.
And I just thought I'd chip this in case he happens to be catching the pregame show. He's probably got nothing better to do right now.
Sure, yeah.
My first thought was maybe he could be a gigolo. No, I'm not sure he has the body for it anymore, if he ever did.
I'm not commenting on that. I'm not saying a word.
No,
but we got to hit Dave Aranda in about 3 minutes, so keep going. Keep going.
Well, another one that popped in mind was carnival worker. You know, they get to travel the world and, you know, meet new people. And I hear they make some pretty good money, mainly cash. I'm fresh out of ideas. I'm not sure I can think of anything else he'd be qualified for.
Well, he can also, you know, apparently he likes to dance on tables, so he could, you know, possibly, you know,
MC women's basketball games. Yeah. He could maybe do that as well.
Gunny, thanks for your call. We always look forward to it, and also your sense of humor. But I think he's being serious, along with sense of humor. Thanks for your time. All right, here's my conversation with Baylor head football coach Dave Aranda. We'll take you pretty much through the rest of our pregame show. Baylor in Texas at 2:30. Here's Dave Aranda.
Dave, was there a sense of relief when you took the practice field this weekend?
There was. It felt good to see everybody. You know, just to be in the office with the coaches to begin was really good to see. You know, we had some guys lost, 15, 20 pounds, fitting into stuff probably a little bit better. And we had other guys that had, was able to spend some time with their families, and others were doing studies on this and that. So all of it was good just to get back together and be with everybody and be a team again on that side of it. And then the players was even more so, just they were excited, man. There's legitimate just excitement, and it was great to be there. And so I feel like the energy of that walkthrough was really strong, and I think it's something that we can build on just throughout the week. Excited to be back.
You needed practice so badly after the West Virginia game, and you had the bye week, and then, of course, you were going to play Oklahoma State. That just seemed to be such an important time coming off the loss. Is that something that you can ever get back?
Well, I feel like we had something there on Sunday, and then we had a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And that Tuesday and Wednesday was one of our better, if not our best, Tuesday and Wednesdays. So Tuesday's full padded and pretty intense, and Wednesday's right along up, right there with it, intensity-wise and physicality-wise and everything. Those are the best two practices we might have had. I'm talking, up and down, inside and out. And so I think the players knew it, and there was a cohesiveness there. I felt it was real, and was excited about kind of what the Thursday was going to look like. Then obviously we got some results back, and then we stopped everything. But I think so. That work was really good, and our aim is to do that again. That's the standard, and let's have another Tuesday, let's have another Wednesday. Now, as far as last week goes, the ability to be in Zoom and to apply, to look at it as a new season, and to look at it as, hey, this is what we've done. Here's, we call them good and bad tapes. And so here's 10 plays of you doing really good things. This is how your coach sees you. These are your strengths. Look at how you're doing it. You remind us of this player, or this NFL player, or this player at Baylor, or this player that so-and-so's coached at some point. There's a clip of him, and then there's you, and you're doing all this stuff. Now, here's the stuff that you're not doing well necessarily. Here's the things you can improve. Here's how it's supposed to look. And this could be an NFL player. This could be somebody last year at Baylor. This could be someone's coached at some point. And now followed by a clip, here's you doing it, and here's where we're falling short. So to correct this, here's the drill we're going to do. And there's examples of the drill and that. And so I think that it provided a lot of time for that. Majority of last week, Monday through Wednesday, was just self-scout, OD, special teams, was good, bad tapes, was kind of getting to the deal of this is who we are, right? This is where we want to be, right? This is what we got to do. And then, starting on Thursday and Friday, kind of getting into Texas. And so I feel like a lot of that work was good. But, yeah, anytime you're not on the grass, you miss it. But I feel like we were able to put some good time in nonetheless.
Is your team almost numb? Not that they don't miss the game, and it's not a setback when the games are canceled, suspended, postponed, or whatever, but are they almost to the point they've been through this now 3 times, that it's not like something traumatic?
There's some of that. I think it's probably fair to say that for some, I would agree with that statement. I think for others, there's still some others that really take it hard, and I think for all of them, I would say they have really worked hard, and I appreciate this about them. And this is staff included too, have really worked hard to see the positive in it, or what to see this as a challenge, to not see this as the end of the story, but just the middle, or perhaps the beginning of the story. And this is where I start. I think they all see it that way, and I appreciate that, and I think that enables us to get better along the way.
Do you feel like your team came back in shape?
So far, yes. I think we were able to condition some last week, and so obviously the COVID positive guys, no, we did not do anything with them. We took care of them and kept up with them, and track their progress throughout the week, just in terms of getting better. The direct contact guys, we were able to condition. The guys that have been positive previously, we were able to condition. And so they were able to get some work last week. And so then I think, coming in on Sunday and getting work was all really good. And so I think, we'll have a better grasp on that starting tomorrow and Wednesday, and how we fare in those 2 prices. But I expect for it to be good. I think the guys have been doing the right stuff where they need to be.
I know sometimes when it's a big game that sometimes there's a concern about your team peaking too early in the week. In this particular case, because the energy was so high, as you mentioned, is there any concern that they might get hyperventilated and overmodulated too early in the week and not for what you need on Saturday?
I don't think so. I think the time spent, the attention spent, the effort spent on details, on doing the ordinary things the right way, on being early, on running on and off the field, on we're all dressed the same. We're all in meetings. We've got our pencil and our pad paper out and taking notes and all those things. When you see all of that and everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, looking how they're supposed to be looking, that creates like a momentum, and then you have that momentum takes you to a walkthrough, and there's communication, and everyone's talking the same way, and it's loud, and people are owning it, and hey, I'm running this, I got this. and that adds even more momentum. And then you get to an individual period, and everybody's on it, and there's great effort, and it's crisp, and it's clean, and adds more. And so that's how I envision it. And we've had a week, that Kansas week was like that. And so we've done that before, and I feel, not having been here last year, but I feel that Baylor, I think that's kind of the formula for Baylor.
The offensive line obviously struggled. West Virginia had a lot to do with that as well. Do you see them as being challenged by what was on tape, and even with some lost practices or reps, that they understand that if this offense is going to get better, doesn't mean others didn't make mistakes, but they're going to have to get better quickly?
Yeah, I think anytime you put stuff on tape, you have to own it, and then you got to learn and grow from it. And so, people are going to read what's on tape as that's you, and that's us. And so I think our ability to own it and then to apply the lessons learned, I think, is everything. And I feel as if, I was just in a meeting earlier today, offensively, we're just more or less what we're talking about right now was being discussed, and it's been talked about quite a bit. And I feel like the plan, knowing who we've got, the team that we are right now, and kind of IDing where we want to go and taking the right steps to get us there. And I'm comfortable in that. I feel like everyone is on the same page.
You mentioned Charlie and how he played down the stretch when the game was on the line. Do you need that more from him from start to finish, and not just when things get frenetic?
Yeah, I think, part of it is, I think us as a staff and, working alongside with, Charlie's an example. Who else? Boogie may be an example, or Raleigh Jahadi may be an example. Just working more, and I don't think this is a critique of anything. I think this is just it's natural when you don't have. This goes back to the original point of just not losing time on the grass, and kind of knowing our people probably more so than our players is that I think our systems are still progressing to where we are getting complete ownership and using our players to feature them, and so I think that's a process, and I think we're trying to adapt it as best we can. I feel that's happening, on both sides, and so I think that's part of it with Charlie is to continue to hone in on things that he does really well and things that feature him, and so that we get that, per what you're saying, we get that type of Charlie all the time, and that's the goal, and we're working hard to get there.
Did you watch a lot of college football during the time you guys were delayed? And what have you seen, if you did? And you were there in the SEC, and it seems like now a lot of what was used to be called the Big 12 offenses have kind of invaded that conference, and the defenses are struggling with it.
Yeah, I was able to watch some. What's always, I don't know, it's probably bad to say. We've had too many of these, really, these weekends that are open, and so, but you do have the opportunity to watch your kids and their sports and when they play and that. So there's some of that, and it's always good to be around family. But was able to watch some of the games, and so I agree with you. I think there's a couple things. I think defensively, I think the ability to simplify and to get it to where guys can play with their cleats in the grass and know where their help is, and play as 11 guys as a unit, I think is still kind of in a process mode. You're not seeing a lot of teams that are doing that. I think you're seeing 9 guys saying this and a couple other guys going, what just happened? And then it gets exploited, and then I think just offensively, the talent, the recruiting, the ability to get guys where, if the ball's in their hand and their space or angles, it's bad for the defense. And so I think, defensively, I think all that stuff will get better. the more things are kind of much like what we're talking about, much when things are more settled down. This is who we are. This is what we do well. And they kind of lock into that. But I don't know, just in the games that I watch, you can sense that identity and everything is kind of being up for grabs, and you're kind of seeing people trying to transition into this or that and trying to find out who they are.
What was more exciting, practicing or watching the Dodgers get to another World Series?
Yeah, I was talking with Taylor Bryan. I guess he's an Atlanta Braves fan. So I asked him if there was a game last night, and he said that there was, and that the Dodgers won. And I said, well, that should be expected. So, it's pretty neat to see. My whole family, Dodger fans, grew up watching them, and so I think anytime that they're having success, it fires me up. It's time that we have some success in the World Series, so we'll see.
What kind of unique challenge is Sam Ehlinger because of what he can do? Obviously, they're very prolific on offense, and he's dangerous when he can run with the football and break the pocket.
Yeah, he is. I think, you want the ability to disguise what you got. I think formationally they spread you out. I think they also add tempo to try to get you to show your hand. I think they've got really good skill, which makes you want to be able to double this guy and help with that guy and everything. And once in the process of doing that, you're limiting who's in the box. And when looks aren't there or things break down, he makes people pay. And he did that for us when we played him last year, myself. And so I think a lot of respect for him. He reminds me of the guy that we have, and so I think very similar, and just competitors and just guys that you have to respect when you see them because they go about it the right way. And so, we're going to have to play team defense versus him. It's going to take 11 guys.
And your relationship with Tom Herman and the fact you guys were roommates at Cal Lutheran?
Yeah. Tom's from Cal-Lu. I remember on my recruiting visit to Cal Lutheran, if you call that a recruiting visit, but on my visit to Cal-Lu, Tom was my host, right, my tour guide and that, and then just going to school there with him and seeing him battle through. He was injured all the time. I just remember him with just ice all over the place. I remember him emceeing girls' basketball games there at Cal Lutheran. I remember him on the table dancing during the halftime, right? I remember, I'd walk down the campus very small, but just everybody, he knew everybody. He was like a game show host guy walking down the street, just talking to everyone. And so Tom's always had that about him, and he's always been great to me. I've learned a lot from Tom. We would always talk scheme, and he would tell me kind of, hey, this is what people are trending to. These are what people are doing. Dave, you got to be, if you're in this coverage versus this is what people are thinking. We used to take so much from him. We play him when I was in Lubbock and he was in Austin. We would play, and I would go down and see him there at Austin. I think his wife was his girlfriend at the time, and my wife now is my girlfriend at the time. We would hang out, so it's a pretty cool deal now that we have this opportunity.
Baylor head coach Dave Aranda on SicEm365 Radio.
All right, so we're just over a half an hour away from kickoff. Baylor in Texas down in Austin, DK Royal Memorial Stadium, Earl Campbell, Ricky Williams Field, Campbell Williams Field. Let's go around the room. Armstrong, we'll start with you. Prediction?
Oh, man, I haven't thought about this right now. I'm going to say Texas 28-21.
All right. Drake, I know you don't have a mic, do you? You have a mic. 28-24. Drake, who's doing the post game, says Baylor. Brian? I'm not real big on him either, but we'll go ahead and do that. Craig Smoke.
I don't do scores and stuff, but I'll take Texas, and I'm taking that based on just what we've seen and what's on paper and what we have to judge off of. I think Baylor's got a chance to win this game. I do need to pass along the report on who's going to be missing this game, apparently. And you may have already read some of this on SicEm365.com over the last few days, but it's now official right before game time. Baylor's going to be without 3 starters today. And also a backup. Left tackle Connor Galvin's not going to play today. Center Xavier Newman-Johnson's not going to play today. Safety Christian Morgan's not going to play today. And wide receiver Jared Atkinson will also not play today. So Galvin and Newman, that's big, and Morgan is big too. Those are 3 big losses right there. Even without that, I'm still going Texas by 10 or so. That's what I'll stick with.
Yeah, I was going to pick the Horns, no matter even with that news that has been kind of simmering out there on SicEm365.com in the premium section. I'm going to say 30-17. I'm going to say 34-17 Texas.
Yeah, I don't think Texas is going to score 34 points. I think they're going to win, though. I think that it'll be probably 27-20, something like that. I think Baylor will make it close just because of the rivalry aspect of this game. But it's just been so long since they've played, and I'm going to put this in. Please do not put an overall judgment of this team and where they're going based on this game because of all the weird stuff that's happened. So just take it as it comes and see what happens. If Baylor wins, great. But if not, then you know all the reasons why.
Yeah. All right. Oklahoma, early fourth quarter now, 27-7 over TCU, and they have the ball at the TCU 20. Kansas State just lost that score. They were dominating KU. That's here it is right here, 55-7, and they just started the fourth quarter. 55-7 K-State in Manhattan. Today at 2:30, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. 4:30, it is Texas Tech home against West Virginia. And, of course, at 2:30, Baylor and also Texas. And what we'll finally have in the postgame with Drake and JD right after the game is over. Brian's going to cut in at halftime. Brian, you're going to do your halftime cut-in as well, Brian Etheridge. And then Armstrong will be here. And then Monday at 3, don't forget to join us. We'll know a little bit more, whatever that might be. All right, for Brian Etheridge, thank you, Brian. Great stuff from Waco Custom Marketplace. The pregame meal and the in-show meal was incredible. Drake Toll, thanks to Armstrong Sims, Paul Catalina. Get better, man. And also to Craig Smoke. Thanks to our sponsor, the pregame sponsor, Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, and everyone else a part of SicEm365 Radio. Brian at halftime, JD and Drake in the postgame. I'm David Smoke. Enjoy your afternoon. Good afternoon on SicEm365 Radio.
Kickoff from your own 20. Team that scores at 2 points gets it right back, and there goes Ebner. Tristan Ebner in a foot race. Can he do it again? Yes, he can. His second kickoff return for a touchdown tonight. His 4th overall.
You've been listening to the Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac SicEm365 Radio Baylor Football Tailgate Show. Brought to you by
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952. IdealMRI.com, premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. That's ideal. Edward Jones Investments, with agents Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, Tom Albers, and Cam Heathcott. Makes sense of investing. Makes sense of investing. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Our goal is to get you back in the game. Stonewood Dental, your comfort is our priority. Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, your friend in the car business. The Willis Law Firm, premier personal injury and product defect trial lawyers.
Williams in motion, play action for Daniels. Backside pressure. Down he goes, back at the 39. The Bears got there.
Petty Clinic Low T, helping you become the high-performance man you want to be. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, metal buildings, metal roofing, steel and pipe. The Pioneer way since 1943. Baylor University, where lights shine bright. Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131. First National Bank of Central Texas. Bird Culchin Ford, your home for Texas-built Ford tough trucks.
Love it. To the edge, to the pylon. Touchdown, Baylor.